change of career, mostly from people who have been working for large companies. The company's been bought, the headquarters has moved to another city, huge layoffs. They're specialists. Having been in a big company, they were a small cog in a very big machine. And now there's not an applicable job for their job skills in any other employer that's in the area. Their roots are in the Lehigh Valley, their families are here, they don't want to move, and so they say, okay, now's the time for me to start that business that I always had a dream about starting. And those are the kinds of people we see coming in. When the pharmaceutical industry began to downsize their pure research, and you may or may not recognize that within 100 miles of the Lehigh Valley, 70% of all of the employees of all the pharmaceutical companies in the United States live and work within 100 miles of here. And so as the pharmaceutical companies decided they were going to move from doing pure research to letting startups do that research and then paying up to buy those startups, taking some of the risk out of the development of drugs and other medical applications, those people started coming to us in droves, many of them from New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, starting businesses. They were looking for a place that had wet labs. We have the only rentable wet labs for 60 miles. The closest ones are in the Philadelphia Science Center, the University City Science Center in Philadelphia. So as a result, we saw lots of those kinds of PhD types who couldn't get a job because they were overeducated for the jobs that were here in the Lehigh Valley and overeducated for the jobs that were available in New Jersey. And we had the petri dish, if you will, for them to come and start their business in our wet labs and create companies that now employ literally hundreds of people in the Lehigh Valley, just in developments that have happened over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. So that's, as you say, a little different take on it, but it's a regional asset. We have 15 incubators in northeastern Pennsylvania, all of which have facilities and mentors and dollars to invest in those companies. So it's a great regional resource for people who want to build a technology enterprise.
So I think in thinking about this topic, healthcare is changing so quickly, and I know I said that already, but it really is true. The Affordable Care Act really changed the whole model of reimbursement and paying for quality and moving toward a triple aim, which is higher quality care, healthier communities, and lower costs. It's driving a lot of what's happening in the industry, and with SEIU and the training fund, the important thing for us has been to collaborate with employers around the emerging needs. What are the new needs that you're going to need? Where are you looking at layoffs? Because you're switching to an electronic medical record system, and so you don't need, secretaries, filing things, or I don't, actually I have no idea what they do, but you're moving, and so you're going to be laying off a bunch of people. What else? What are the other things you're going to be needing so you can get in front of that, so those workers are protected, and they also have an avenue to learn new skills and move into a new job. And I think manufacturing has probably dealt with this at some point, right? And in healthcare, that's something we need to do too, is be in front of the changes so that we can help our employers and work together to prepare for the next thing that they're going to need. For instance, in cardio lab in one of our hospitals, a lot of the procedures that were done in an operating room are now being done in the lab. The new equipment and the new techniques that are being required are changing so quickly that nobody coming out of school has them. It is something you have to do on the job. So engaging with the union workers and the employer around what are the needs going to be. We're going to need more of those workers. They're going to need a very specialized skill. How do we work together to make sure that the hospital is ready to provide the highest quality of cardiac care in a method that is most efficient and provide opportunity for the workers. So.
We have about 66% of our student population is first time in college, fresh out of high school. The other 33% are returning adults that fit into this category. Many of them displaced, many of them looking to better their career, veterans. We're a veteran-friendly institution. And I would say that this is one area where we're pretty good at helping them get back into the workforce quickly. They already come with skills, they already come with the motivation, they're eager to get into class and get back to work. So they're typically much more focused. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't do better. So some of the things that we're working on are how can we give more credit for prior learning and prior experience so that they don't have to sit through a lot of the developmental lower level courses. They can transfer a lot of their work skills. And then the other area I think that this area, that this group struggles with is reintegrating to life in college. You know, the first time in college out of high school, they're excited to be at college. A returning adult typically is not very excited to be at college. You know, they're not looking for a football game to go to. So, you know, we have a returning adults and veterans lounge. We try to give them different support mechanisms. They often need more like computer skills, technology skills. They're afraid to use a computer often. So it's just a different level, I think, of support that we try to focus on them.
Changing careers in the trades. Dr. Meyer had the right word there, was a displaced worker. We see many workers in the past when Bethlehem Steel closed down. Obviously, a lot of those people over there had skills that we were looking for. You hear about Target closing. You hear about craft food. So the displaced workers have the skills that we're looking for. We do give them advanced placement, I should say, and also pay. But they have to return to school, and that could be the difficult part. You know, for us, one of our requirements is Algebra 1. And we would assume everybody has Algebra 1. But if you've been out of high school for, you know, a good number of years, you know, you don't have those skills. So, and we do have some math prep classes that they can take. But that's where we partner with community colleges because they have those courses where we can send those guys just to take a prep class. So we do see a lot of people changing careers, but unfortunately it's because they're displaced. But we look at them as a separate group because, you know, we hire people right out of high school, you know, from 18. And I already had a first-year apprentice that was 54 years old. So that meant he would have topped out at 59. Okay, but he came from Target. He had great skills, but to get him assimilated back into classroom setting, it took some effort on our instructor's part. But throughout the whole trades, though, we do accept those displaced workers, and we have a place for that.
Thank you. I would say, as trite as it sounds, today you cannot live without lifelong learning. Lifelong learning meaning that I had the luxury of going to school for broadcast journalism and political science, and I have a great job. That doesn't happen anymore.
The same school Bob Costas went to.
Oh my goodness, you remember that? This man's memory is unbelievable.
The Maxwell School, right?
Yes, Maxwell and Newhouse. Yes, thank you. But as great as that sounds on paper, you know, today I look at B. Braun. They're hiring hundreds of people for incredibly technical jobs. If Tony decided he didn't like something I said today, I couldn't get one of those great jobs and those great paying jobs. I think that we all have to remember that companies don't have the luxury these days of keeping extra people on. And I think that as important as it is for the people that are within the businesses, I'm thinking of our manufacturing council, Jack Funder right here is our chairman. We had a whole program on the institutional knowledge. You can't teach institutional knowledge when you're going back to school, so you need that combination. But to keep up with technology, as you all know, when we look at our computers every day, it's like, now what? Another upgrade? I don't know how to do this. So it's just a continuous goal of learning. And I think that utilizing the WIB programs, if I can just get back to that for 1 second, the on-the-job training program, when you can work with incumbent workers, the industry partnership, there's financing there that we utilize that companies have to match, so there's no free ride. But it shows that they are indebted to something and committed and want their employees to get trained into a higher level. And that's how we work closely together.
I don't want to go last again. So I'm a little jaded. I've been in this business a long time. I've dealt with more dislocated workers than any of you know collectively. So I see their faces every day, I hear their stories every day. We have a case management system that works with them to try to get them to take a look at what they can be next, because they don't even know what to be next, let alone decide what kind of training they want to go into. They don't know what to be. So our job as an employer base and our job as a workforce system and your job is to make sure we do a little more outreach in our entire United States, let alone the state of Pennsylvania or right here in the Lehigh Valley, for outreach to make sure people understand where jobs are and what skills are and what they can do. Right now, 95% of the people are working, and many of them are underemployed. Ask them. They'll tell you they're underemployed. They took a job because it was a job, and they have a mortgage, and they have a family, and they're going to have their children in school, and they have to pay their bills. So how do we look at a better way of ensuring economic development is aligned with workforce development and education in the community, to make sure the jobs that are growing and the jobs that we're bringing here are at a salary level that people can live on? So that's one of our goals, and I think that's what we strategically try to do. But dislocated workers or people, well, you're going to change a job anymore, maybe 10 to 12 times in your lifetime. It used to be, if you had to do it once, you were afraid. But now it's a commonplace. So as Michelle said, lifelong learning is absolutely mandatory. And that's why we're teaching it in schools, right? That's what we're telling them. You have to constantly. I always say to anyone that walks in here, if you haven't been back to some form of education or training in the last year, you're already falling behind. And I don't care if you're 18 years old or 60. And really, when you look at the statistics, the young people coming into school, that's decreasing that number. Most of the workers we're looking at are older workers, older being anything after 43. So that's who we have to retool, that's who we have to look at working with, that's who we have to get to understand that their next job includes a community college, at least a degree, understanding that you need to be a smarter worker. It's very hard to talk to your community, to say, hi, Lehigh Valley, we all need to be a little smarter. It's very hard to do, and to make sure they have the skills, because that's what employers are demanding. And now we've seen a lot more employers at least step up to the plate and begin to retool their workers. And I think some of the funding that we put forward in our industry partnerships and work experience programs, a rotational internship network, we've tried to come up with all these crazy innovative programs to kind of connect the employer and the job seeker. And I think that has to continue, because, to be honest with you, the employers have to learn too what their role is in this community. So they have really been stepping up, but it's a hard job to go back into the labor force for less than you were left the labor force.
Final issue, maybe if we could do a rapid fire and then open it up for some questions from the audience, and Nancy, we'll get to start this off. Challenges, assets to the Lehigh Valley, specifically on job creation.
On job creation. I think the biggest challenge is really looking at what a level of income we need to exist in the Lehigh Valley and to live on, and how we can make sure that we are in line with economic development, workforce development, education, and the community players. That's real big for us. I think the asset is that when I look around the room and I look around the 83 community-based organizations we have, and the economic development players that we have, and the Manufacturers Resource Center, and the employers on our board, and the county executives, and how we're aligning everything. And we've taken a step beyond that. We've actually begun the process of integration. Not every one of us in the service industry has to have a building, a staff, a team, and everything. How do we begin to look at a more effective, efficient system of workforce development and education and training rather than our individual programs?
I would say, as we're changing our focus at the younger and younger levels, Rich Snizak is here, the superintendent of Parkland School District, and they are now focusing a lot on the things that we've talked about here with the trades and the skills. But we can't forget that in order to create jobs right now, we need the people in place right now. And there's an argument going on at the national level as to whether or not we should lower the amount of H-1B visas that we're allowing into the country. And I can look out here and see companies that would not be functioning, and the people that are there may not have jobs if they don't bring people in who have the skills. So I think it's important just to remember throughout what we're doing, we need to focus on getting our people trained and get them focused to create more jobs, but we also need to keep going as fast as we can to keep up right now.
All right, so our part in job creation is when we partner with the LBDC and they're talking to prospective companies think about coming into our area, we show them the skills that the trades have, because basically we build things. And that's what we do. You know, we're skilled, highly skilled, and we're efficient in what we do. We just show them the value that all the skills have for that project. Like I said before, it's a unique partnership that we have with everybody here in the room. But it works for us. It works for us as the trades, and we're just appreciative of everything that we can do. As far as the worker training, obviously we have the apprenticeships. They're long-standing. We train our own. You know, once they come to us, we train our own, and that's also a part of the job creation. Thank you.
I think one of the challenges for the education industry and community colleges is adapting quickly to the changing needs of the community that we serve. And so in the Lehigh Valley, for example, manufacturing is on the uprise. How do we get the students into those programs quickly? How do we get the equipment that we need to do the proper training? What training do they need? What does that look like? What are the employability skills that would suit a generic population that could go into the variety of businesses in the valley? That's a challenge for us, and it's something that we're working at. The other thing, I think, at a time, the education industry is counter-cyclical to the economy. So when the economy picks up, our enrollment drops. So it's difficult to keep students in classes when they could be working and earning money. And so that's something that we constantly grapple with, is how do we keep people in school so that they realize that, yes, you're working right now, but you need the skills that you're going, you might not be at that job in 5 years. And what would you need in 5 years to keep you successful? That's it.
So I have this chart that has the fastest growing occupations by workforce development area. And in Lehigh Valley, it's home health aides, and number 2 is personal care aides. The same thing is true in Berks County, Pocono. So there are jobs being created in the home care sector. Those are not, right now, good jobs. They're low wage jobs, no benefits, no pay for holidays or any kind of, anything extra. It's just straight up, low wages. And often not full-time. You can't get full-time hours. Or they don't pay you for your travel time between clients or whatever. So this is where the jobs are being created. And that's where we feel that we need to raise those jobs up. Those need to be better paying jobs. So it needs to be jobs with benefits, because that's what's going to sustain our community. That's where the growth is. And if we can upskill those jobs, can we then help our community stay healthier? Can we help patients stay in their homes and not have to be readmitted to the hospital? Can we keep that diabetic patient from going into a crisis where they have to go to the ER? That's where the home care aide and the personal care aide can make a difference in the health of our community and in the, and economically. If you keep them, keep people healthy and able to stay at home, they don't have the cost of a long-term care facility or the hospital. So I would say there are jobs being created. We need to make those jobs better jobs. In addition to doing all the other things that you were saying about creating, and creating a pathway to some of those middle income or higher income jobs.
So the unenviable task of being the last one answering the same question, I'll simply add that our biggest challenge at Ben Franklin is, despite the fact that we do return $3.60 for every dollar that gets invested in us, our budget was cut in half 7 or 8 years ago, and the budget that came out of the House most recently cut us in half again. And for organizations like ours, for the industrial resource centers who've been zeroed out, this is, a budget like this, were it to pass, would be the death knell to our programs. I've made it clear to our state representatives that that message is, if that's the level you want to fund us, you're telling us that we need to be making preparations to shut our programs down. And of course, we're all assured that, well, you know, it's early and, you know, the budget doesn't pass until the end of June, hopefully, or early July, and there's a lot to be done.
Or
But,
December.
Exactly. So,
As the county execs know what.
so for us, it means we have to spend an awful lot of time in Harrisburg instead of time with clients to make sure that our state representatives and our state senators understand that there is a minimum level of funding that we need in order to be able to deliver that $3.60 for every dollar. And by rights, they ought to be increasing what would they give to us, because we're clearly giving them the best return they get on any kind of investment they make.